Welcome to the gold standard here from the 440 Sports Network. Live instant analysis and reaction that is so much happier than I was expecting it to be. That is Emma Lingan. I am Braden Gall. And of course, we are brought to you by Sinkers Beverages. The USA advances. Emma Lingan, the USA advances. Please share the show. Please tell somebody that it's happening. We're a little bit late on a Wednesday, but you know what? It was worth it. What a great game, Emma. How are you?
I'm good. It was a great game after again, surprisingly great game between Canada and the Czechs as well. So it was a big day, bigger than I think, a little bit more stressful than I was expecting for today, honestly.
Really good stuff. It was a great day of hockey, like truly a great day of hockey if you're a fan of the sport. Fantastic day. You got Canada making the huge comeback. You got Finland making the huge comeback. You got Sweden making the comeback, all in the third period, all trailing, all taking it to overtime. Germany, what were you doing? You didn't carry your weight today on the show or in the Olympics. So the USA advances. They will play Slovakia, and of course, Finland will now play Canada in what is a spectacular semifinal for the Canadians and for the Finns. Two great games, two great wins. You got a couple of Predators there in Saros and Hala. Advancing after the comeback. You got the Canadians battling, as we just alluded to advance. A little controversy there with how many men might have been on the ice when they gave up a goal. But USA, the men's hockey team, advances. We'll get to the women's matchup as well. They've got a gold medal match with Canada coming up tomorrow. That's going to be unbelievable action as well. And I do have one Predators topic that we'll get to a little bit later on. But this is about USA and the Olympics, both the men and the women advancing. First of all, very much I don't want to say, I feel like this could have been a gold medal match is a little hyperbolic, but like it is two of the best three teams, according to the odds in this tournament. Obviously unusual for them to meet this early in the tournament, but they get to, it's more of a semifinal, clearly a semifinal match. Could have been a gold medal match, but in general, fantastic day of hockey, Emma. What was your biggest takeaway from USA's win? We'll get started there kind of broadly, and then we'll kind of drill down on what happened in the game and chances to upset Slovakia, or I guess beat Slovakia.
Yeah, I felt like a semifinal game. I actually, a few times during that game, I had to actively remind myself it was not the semifinals because it felt like that level of intensity. I think you saw Sweden really bring their A game. Like that was definitely their best game of the tournament so far, just as a whole. And they didn't even have Victor Hedman because he was injured during warmups. So again, I don't really know what Sweden's coaching staff is doing with some of their lineup decisions, but regardless, I think USA, the biggest takeaway for me was that, and it's something that we know already, but how just defensively deep this team is. Obviously, it was a low-scoring game. It was 1-0 for most of the game until Zibanejad scored at the very end to tie it and send it to overtime. So I think that it's kind of just reinforcing what we already know about the U.S. is that goaltending and defense is their bread and butter. So that is where I think you're going to beat a team like Sweden. I don't know if that's where you're going to beat a team like Canada, but again, it's just reinforcing what we already know.
It is very hard to watch that game. It's just very hard to watch them and not immediately mentally compare them to what a game against Canada would be.
Yeah.
And so if I'm watching that game, I'm going, first period was kind of sloppy by both teams. USA is the better team, obviously, but not by much. And it was pretty sloppy. I thought the passing was pretty bad. You and I were texting about that. I think on the second period, especially midway through, the USA sort of took control. They end up scoring the goal, and I thought they played significantly better in the second period. And then after Sweden gets that penalty in the beginning of the third period, USA kills it off, and then it felt like just all hands on deck. Please don't give up a goal, because the ice was heavily tilted towards the Swedes in the third period. There's lots of players that we need to shout out, but I think last week, I feel like if they watch this game, if you watch this game and they play this way, despite how good the defense is and how good Connor Hellebuyck was, if they play like this against Canada, they are going to get roasted. So that doesn't mean anything, but that's just watching the game. It's hard not to immediately transpose it into a match with like Connor McDavid running around, like just blazing through, blazing through your defense. And so they got to score some goals. And we talked about it last week. They've got to find some goal creation. And whew, they got one from the human joystick, the overtime cheat code, which if you want to tell people what happened as we're watching the game in overtime here before we went live.
Yeah, before we went live, Braden and I were here like in the studio, as it were, sort of backstage, and we were both watching the game. And I think that I guess Braden's feed that he was watching on was a few seconds behind mine. And so it was actually, I don't even know if I told you this, but it was right as Quinn Hughes scored the overtime winner. You said in a very like calm and, even keeled way, you were like, man, Quinn Hughes is like the overtime cheat code. And I was like, oh, is he reacting to the goal? Because he doesn't seem that excited. And then I realized, I was like, oh, he hasn't seen it yet. So I was like, let me not ruin this for him. And then
That
a
was
few
very
seconds
kind of you.
later, he saw it. I thought
That
so.
was very kind of you. No, when you give him that much ice, it's like peak prime Yossi. Like you just can't, like, he can just do excuse me, he can just do things. Him and Charlie McAvoy I thought were great. Like they were on the ice the most of the game. It felt like every important shift they were out there, the two of them. I thought they played a great game, the two of them. We got to give it up to Dylan Larkin. When you needed a big defensive play, he, like, I'm going to get to the goal last. Like when they needed a defensive play to knock the puck away from Philip Forsberg, Dylan Larkin makes the play. In the second period, they had a rush into the zone that he back checks. He busts his ass and back checks and breaks up a pass into the high slot. Just like when you needed a poke check or a defensive play or a turnover, Larkin was there. And of course, the only goal in regulation for the USA, Hughes to Hughes, and then Larkin gets the deflection in front of the net because he worked his way into the right spot. So I thought Dylan Larkin also MVP caliber. Quinn Hughes is going to get a lot of love for this, obviously, with the game winner. And then we got to get to Connor Hellebuyck, who made big save after big save after big save for most of the game, was on point. And we talked last week, hey, what's the goalie strategy going to be? What are they going to do? They play Swayman in the second game, Jeremy Swayman, a little shakier, giving up a goal from about 1,000 feet away, a little shakier than Hellebuyck. Clearly the right decision to go with Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah. Yeah, Hellebuck's been vintage Hellebuyck. He's been exactly what you need him to be. Going back to Larkin for a second, he's a guy that I had my eye on before this Olympic tournament even started. He's a guy who I think has been very underrated in the NHL, kind of like a Roman Yossi, but like a forward. Underrated, I think, because the Red Wings, they haven't been a playoff team for a while, and I just think that he gets a little buried in the headlines there. But I think I've had an eye on him as someone who could really benefit from a big showing in these Olympics. Let the rest of the world see what you are capable of. I mean, he really is, I think, one of the best two-way forwards, two-way centers in the league. And he doesn't get enough credit for that, I don't think. So, like you said, the goal getting to the front of the net, that was huge. But like you said, the big defensive plays, I mean, he was forechecking, he was back checking, he was everywhere. And I think that that's exactly what you need. And to think that you're getting all of that from your third line center, I mean, that's pretty good. And, I got to give credit too to Jack Hughes for that goal. I mean, he was the one who really set the whole play up, and Larkin was there to tap it in. But just been very impressed by those guys.
It seems like we've got regular season Hellebuyck.
Yes,
which is a good thing for the United States, not playoff Hellebuyck. Even though we are into the tournament and into the bracket, it's one of those things where it's weird to watch as a hockey fan because you're so used to 7 games and you're so used to the long drawn out physicality and the knowledge and the backstories and all the things that lead to a great overtime or postseason experience in hockey. And all of it's just like, it's all on like steroids or meth or something. It's all just go. And it's a ton of fun, but man, they gave up that goal in the third period. I felt bad going into this game. It's only because of my, this is probably an ironic thing to say, but like my American inferiority in hockey, sort of like in soccer, like as I'm wearing the soccer kit. When you watch USA men's and not women's, but men's soccer, I'm always like, oh, we're going to lose. Like, I just assume we're going to lose. And drawing Sweden in the quarterfinals is really unlucky. That is a great hockey team, a great country of hockey players, and a really good team, although they had to kind of battle to get to where they were tonight. We got a lot more to do today on the show. I want to say thanks to Sinkers Beverages for supporting us here. Support good local small businesses right now, of course, if you want. Look what I got. I got my email. There we go. Sinkers Sazerac barrel pick for an antique Weller 107. They have these available right now, and the only place in the world you can get this is, of course, at Sinkers Beverages. So make sure you go swing by and check out their new barrel pick of their Weller 107. It's delicious. It's fantastic. And if you're a member of the In Crowd, which you should sign up to be and support good local businesses, they will send you an email and say, hey, we got one with your name on it behind the counter, like literally. And this is what you get. There you go. There you go. I don't know when I'm going to open that. I don't drink nearly as much as I used to, but it's delicious. And I can't wait to open it at some point. Maybe on Sunday, if they get there. if they get there.
Or maybe tomorrow if the U.S. women get a win over Canada.
Oh, we're going to talk about Hillary Knight in a second. You just settle down. Josh Wright says, that reminds me of the old John Boy tweet. Why watch overtime hockey when you can simply snort cocaine and ride a motorcycle out of a helicopter? Sounds right. Yep. Jeffrey says, third period, prime example of why you don't turtle that way. Sweden had so much momentum. About 8-9 minutes to go, I was just like, they're going to score. Like there was so much momentum, so much tilted ice. I was very, very concerned. Predemption says, Braden and Emma, as the resident Canadian listener of Lower Broad Hockey and the Gold Standard, I'd like to thank Canada and Team USA for not screwing up our viewing plans on Sunday morning. We got a ways to get to the championship here in just a little while. So if you guys want to jump into the comment section, please do so. There you go. As he follows that up, we both have to get through Friday. Sorry, Saros, you're going down, but I'm looking forward to Sunday. Agreed. Whatever happens the rest of the way, can we not have Bill Guerin making roster decisions in the 2028 World Cup or 2030 Olympics? They're not scoring enough while Robertson and Caulfield are sitting at home. Now, look, they scored 16 goals in 3 group stages. They gave up 4 total. 3 of those were when Swayman played against Denmark. That is a lot of goals in the group stage. They dominated, and they weren't really tested. So 2 questions. Follow up on what Will Bloodworth says, which is, do you think we both said, hey, maybe one of these guys could have been on the roster last week, didn't need them in the group stage, but certainly needed them today in the match against Sweden. What do you make of the roster decisions by Guerin so far after seeing one game in the tournament?
I still think, I don't know, because here's my thing that the angle I want to attack this from, because I feel like everyone looks at the Tkachuk brothers as a unit, a single unit, that it's, you can't have one without the other. And I think that is a big problem, because I will say, and maybe this is probably a very controversial take, I don't have an issue with Brady being there. I don't think that Matthew should be there over a Jason Robertson, for example. I think that Brady, you've seen it. Brady's been a big contributor. He brings that physicality, yes, but he also brings the scoring touch. He's a good playmaker. He's a good leader. He's very vocal on the bench. Like you can easily see why he wears the C in Ottawa. Matthew, I think, not saying that he's been a liability or anything out there, but I just don't think that. I think that he is very much riding on the coattails of his brother right now a little bit. I think that you see a lot of the Tkachuk name is carrying a lot of the weight. It's doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. And I hate that the NHL is trying to make the Tkachuks into the Travis and Jason Kelce of the NHL. Because the thing with Travis and Jason Kelce, at least one of them is likable. That's the problem with Brady and Matthew Tkachuk, is that neither of them is really universally well liked. But that's neither here nor there. I still think that I would have made some different decisions in the forward group. I have no problem, obviously, with the goaltending or the defense, but yeah.
Brock Faber was excellent in this game as well. A bunch of really critical defensive plays in his own zone the entire day. Quinn Hughes, by the way, looks, this is from Dixie, Quinn Hughes looks like he's constantly skating downhill. It's truly bizarre to watch, even if it's different from Roman Josi. I'm not sure it's that much different from like 24-year-old Roman Josi. Like you got to go back a ways to get to 24, 25-year-old Roman Yossi to match up the same age. But I agree, 27 minutes for Quinn Hughes tonight in the win over Sweden. Just nobody close. Although I think Jack Eichel had 21 minutes, I think. 21 and a half minutes
Yeah.
for Eichel on the ice. That's a lot of ice time for a forward.
It still felt like every time I looked, like Hughes was out there. I felt like he
Yeah.
never
Yep.
took a shift off. And yeah, I
I think
mean,
it's
Eichel was
it,
out there for a while,
is it
but
Hughes, Hellebuck, Larkin? Those are the three stars of the game.
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, those are the three I would point to
Quinn
as
Hughes,
well.
that is.
Yeah, right.
But
Quinn. The other Hughes good
Jack
too.
Jack had he had a couple good shifts there for sure. But yeah, definitely Quinn.
Okay, so I wasn't gonna. I know I texted you about this, but I don't know if I was gonna bring this up or not. But Kevin says every time the camera shows Quinn Hughes' face, he looks like he's constipated or in pain, or that he's haunted by a miniature Victorian ghost. Do we know
Here's
about
the
this?
thing.
Do we know about
I
this?
think Quinn Hughes looks like a haunted Victorian ghost, personally.
I
Like, people
agree.
are saying he's seeing ghosts. I'm like, "No, he looks like a sick Victorian child. Are we sure he's not, like, seeing himself in a mirror?"
So
I
it's
don't
funny.
know. I say this as a woman, and I feel like a lot of women who are obviously younger than me, like, Quinn Hughes is a big, like, I don't know. I don't get the attraction, and maybe it's because he's younger, but I don't know. There are other, I can
Like
set aside my
he's a very attractive man, is what you're saying. I'm not saying
No,
you're
I'm
saying
I'm
that, but like
saying
people think that.
people think that, girls think that, and I don't get it. I'm like, I can
I,
set aside age for a second and say if someone is
sure.
objectively attractive, and I don't see that with Quinn Hughes. He also has the personality of a lampshade, so
Don't
I
don't
really don't see the draw.
don't hate
But
on him. Don't hate on him. Well, here's the thing: is when I see him, like he's
very
always
good
kind
at
of
hockey, very good at
right,
hockey.
right. He's always done this like as a player, where he's like in the zone, like he's just focused. And a lot of players
Mhm.
have this like blank stare when they're not just hockey players, but athletes. So it's not weird that he's like, I'm in the zone. It's really weird that people who don't watch him normally, don't watch hockey, but are watching the Olympics, are seeing this thing and coming up with internet memes. And so much so that he is asked about it at a press availability during the Olympics. Like, hey, do you know that the internet thinks that you're haunted by a Victorian ghost? And he's like, yeah, I'm in the zone, man. But so I almost feel bad that he has to answer questions because like Twitter invented a story about him. But I will say, there is the worst I have ever seen a professional athlete look in my life is when I went into the locker room after the Preds lost in the Stanley Cup final. Like the next day, we had like locker room kind of clean out. And I went in there, or 2 days later, it was very recently after they lost game 6 to Pittsburgh. And I went in there, and I will never forget the sunken eyes, the thinned out faces, the ratty beards, and like they are your body when you go that deep in the postseason, you are a shell of yourself. You look like you have been on a deserted island in a boxing tournament for like 3 weeks. Like you look really like you look beaten up. He was kind of you look pale too because you've been inside every
Yeah,
night or on a plane every day for like 35 days, so you're super pale. Like that's what Quinn Hughes looks like on a Tuesday in November. Like he looks like
yeah,
he's played an entire postseason in the NHL. Yeah,
yeah,
this is exactly right, Jeffrey. Reminds me of Tommy Novak.
yeah.
Tommy
Really good
Novak,
at hockey,
very
just
pale.
yeah, and I don't know. I don't get it. But look, I think that what's funny, actually? I was thinking about this, how he kind of it's almost like it's not really a persona, it's just a face that he has that has become, kind of made him that's
Right.
become famous. There's back in like the early 2000s, there was a relief pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates. Ironically, his last name was also Hughes, no relation as far as I know, but he he became kind of known for this, and he was a big dude, probably like 6'4" or something, and every time he came out on the mound, he had an active, angry, like, like snarl. Like
Just mean mug. Yeah.
he looked like he was about to rip your lips off, like anytime he came out there. And he would do this like stomp off the mound and like became, known for this. And then when you heard an interview with him, he is like the sweetest, nicest, like most soft-spoken guy, like just so, and it's like it kind of reminds me of that, but it's like when you listen to Quinn Hughes talk, it's funny because when you see his face, you want to think like, "Oh, he probably that's just his game face, right?" And it's like, "No, his personality is actually just a blank stare."
Wow.
That's all it is.
He's got the personality of a lampshade. Thanks a lot for carrying our country to the to the semifinals of the
I said he's
Olympics.
really good at hockey. He's not gonna win any beauty
I hear you.
pageants, but that's fine.
No, I hear you. I hear you. I mean, what a game! What a game! Congratulations to the United States for pulling it out. I am the one question I have is, do we think? Like, I think the way they won this, despite the fact that I'm biting my nails and it makes the whole thing nervous, and they were outplayed in the third period, and they had to come back and win it in a 3-on-3 format, which is totally bizarre, and it's very it's not like a natural hockey outcome when you go to 3-on-3, which it's sort of like on a PKs in soccer. Like, it's just not it's not real. It's not a real version of the sport. But I do think this will benefit them in a big way, because I think watching Canada, even Sweden and Finland, struggle in the group stage through a much more difficult schedule, and getting to this point, I think the USA needed something like this if they want to win a gold medal. I think they had to have a game where they were pushed and challenged, faced elimination, faced in a situation where you are puckered up every second of the game. And I think it's a huge benefit, because I think I don't want to say it hurt them that they rolled through the group stage, or the qualifying, or whatever the hockey calls it. I'm in soccer mode. I think I think this one is hugely beneficial, potentially more than just winning the game and advancing to the semifinals to face Slovakia.
I agree. I think that having this kind of tough game, this tough challenge is going to be important. But I will counter with, unfortunately, Canada just had that exact same experience today. And so it's like not even an advantage that the US has now had this challenging game, this challenging elimination game. Um, because Canada just had it too against the Czechs. And so it's like, well, you are really just both coming into this with like you both breeze through the first, the early couple games. And then once you get to the elimination round or the point of potential elimination, it got tough for both of these teams. So I think that
Yeah.
yes, it's a benefit for the USA, but I wouldn't call it an advantage because Canada just had the same thing.
No, and I agree. I think, well, I guess it wasn't an advantage over somebody else,
Yeah.
because like Finland, for example, and Sweden both had major tests in like Finland upset in their first game. Sweden gets beaten in the like they were facing challenging battles, 60-minute battles, more than once, and I think that prepares you for this type of battle and this type of game. Canada, I think, is very well prepared for this, no matter what types of games they played. But they got a little challenge in the group stage, more so than the USA did. It was just a tougher schedule, so it'll be interesting to see if this sort of changes, because I thought the whole first period was very sloppy from the United States. It did not look like Sweden was doing the same thing. You're kind of feeling each other out a little bit, but it was not a very crisp first period, and you cannot do that against Canada. You will, or maybe even Slovakia, but if you're playing Canada, you will be down 2-0 going into the second period. You cannot, and they have not been very good in the first period for most of the tournament. They are, I think, 9-1 in the second period of this tournament.
Not good in the first period. Sounds familiar. Sounds like Nashville.
You were waiting for that one.
I mean,
I can see you're like.
You're setting it up for me to knock it down. I'm just saying that, but I think yes, there were elements of this, not only the first period, but I would say even in the third period, where I think, I mean, Sweden had all the momentum going into that third period, and it really felt like all Sweden, and USA was just defending the house, which thankfully that's what they do best. But that is not going to, you're not going to beat Canada that way. Like it worked today, but it's not going to work against Canada.
All right, make sure you check out Sinker's Beverages and support good local small businesses. You can search Uber Eats and have that booze delivered directly to your house. So if you're watching the game, that is going to be at 2:00 on Friday against Slovakia. And then if they win that one, they will play in the gold medal match facing the winner of the Canada-Finland matchup in the other semifinal, a really good Final Four. Obviously, you'd prefer the Sweden matchup to be here, but now that it's behind you, hey, you survived, and now you've got one of the tougher matchups you could have behind you now. So you can't overlook Slovakia at all. But if you need some bevies this weekend, make sure you check out Sinker's Beverages and search Uber Eats and have that booze delivered directly to your house. And then let's have a brunch party on Sunday. What time is the game on Sunday? I have not actually looked if they were to get to the gold medal match. I do not know. And of course,
I think it's in the morning.
That's what everybody's saying on the socials there or in the chat.
Now
Obviously,
I keep getting the men's and the women's confused. The women play at noon tomorrow. I know that,
yep,
but then
yep.
there are too many times in my head.
All right. Quickly here, what do we need to know about Slovakia? I am not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on Slovakian hockey, but they did pull the upset right on Finland in the first game, where they've got a couple of really nice pieces. But this is not like Sweden, where you have every single player is an NHL player. This is a different caliber of team than Sweden, but you can't take anybody lightly in a semifinal of the Olympics.
No, and I think Slovakia, yes, obviously that was an upset for Finland, but a couple things go into that. Number one, I think first of all, I think that Finland always, it feels like in these tournaments, these international things, I feel like they always have one game like that. They have one garbage game. I feel like they had it in the Four Nations last year. It's just a thing that they do. So it's like, okay, there's that. But then when you have Slovakia, people were talking about, oh, this is a massive upset. They're talking about it's the Jamaican hockey team beating Finland. And it's like, no, Slovakia has NHL players. Not as many as Finland, not as many as Sweden, but they do. And the ones that they have are really good. I mean, you have guys like Juraj Slafkovsky and Dalibor Dvorsky, who are two of the hottest young players in the NHL right now, especially heading into this Olympic break. Those are not guys to sneeze at. I mean, those are really legitimate NHL talents right there. So
yeah.
I think that you add that on to the fact that, like you said, this is not a roster full of NHLers, which means they're going to be scrappy. They're going to be hungry. This is arguably going to mean even more to them than it is to the US. I mean, there's that scrappy, that hunger and that desire to win on the international stage. They don't get, this is just something that's going to mean more for them. So I think that is important to remember too.
Are you saying that it just means more?
It just means more.
Slovakia?
Yeah.
It looks like the opening odds, the only ones I can find right now at time of taping, 5:15 on Wednesday after the game. Looks like FanDuel might have these, and it has I don't even know how to read hockey lines sometimes. It's got the opening puck line, USA -1.5, which I assume is just goals, right? And then opening money line is USA -850, Slovakia +570. So seems like obviously the USA a heavy favorite based on original betting odds, but that is also a United States company catering to United States gamblers. So we shall see. But that one is coming up at 2:00 on Friday, and then you've got the Canadian and Finland matchup. Look, USA plays its game, and Connor Hellebuyck plays his game. They will beat Slovakia and play in the gold medal match. My assumption is if Canada plays their game, and UC Saros doesn't have 5 goals saved above average or some nonsense, which is possible. I assume it's a Canadian and United States gold medal matchup that we've all been waiting for. But you can't count your chickens. So you got a different prediction for us?
No, I think it's just with the women, I think no other tournament, no other matchup has that kind of inevitability of USA versus Canada that the women have. But with the men, I think it's assumed, but it wouldn't be as much of a shock, I don't think, to see one of those teams not make it.
I mean, Finland beating Canada would be a big upset, but I think it's totally doable. It's totally doable. Whereas I think in Slovakia, look, the United States can poop on itself anytime. It can happen all the time. But I would, if they play their style and they play defense and they have Connor Hellebuyck in net, they should win the game. But you got to get by them on Friday. All right, let's get to the women's matchup. This is, look, I'm not going to pretend to know specifically the matchups here inside of the game. So I don't want to insult women's hockey fans. I'll let you do that. Not the insulting, but the analysis.
It's like, I'll
But
let you insult women's hockey
I
fans.
can set it up. I can set it up. So this is at noon, 12:10 Central Time on Thursday. This is the 7th gold medal match between the two teams and the two countries. The Canadians are 5-2 in those matchups. They have won 5 of those 7 games. The United States, however, has won 7 straight matchups, regardless of format or tournament, against the Canadian national team, including earlier in this tournament where they handled them relatively easily. However, Marie-Philippe Poulin did not play in that game, arguably the best women's hockey player in the world and the Canadian captain, who has scored 7 goals in gold medal matches. She is a machine in these particular games. And the United States, though, 6-0 in this tournament, of course, 31 goals for, 1 goal allowed. They are playing as well as they could possibly play. But to imagine a world where we could get a U.S.-Canada women's matchup on Thursday, and then both teams, men's teams, win on Friday, and we get a double U.S.-Canadian gold medal match in the Olympics is like the dream we've all been waiting for. So give us the analysis here with the best player in the world and the Canadians playing their sport against what is normally a pretty elite women's team here. What do you got going on tomorrow at noon, Emma?
Well, I just think that the U.S. women's team has I don't see anybody beating them. I mean, nobody has yet, but I have been so impressed by everything about the way that they've played, the way that they've handled business this tournament. And I think that and people could make the argument, well, it's USA and Canada at the top, and then it's everybody else. So they haven't faced the level of or the higher caliber of opponent. Yes, they have. They faced Canada already and beat the tar out of them in the preliminary round. So again, like you said, that was without Poulin, and there's other factors going into it, but I just think that, if you're asking me my opinion just based on this tournament, how it's gone, I think it's an assumption that the USA wins. And the question is just how many goals are they going to score on Canada? Because they've been unstoppable. But I will also say, looking at the history of the tournament, like you said, Canada is favored there.
This is their shit, Emma. This is their shit.
It is, and they have not, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier with the USA men and, how they kind of, no pun intended, but skated through the first couple games, and then they actually faced a real challenge. Canada has not had an easy go of it here. I mean, you mentioned Poulin's injury, that she missed a game or two, came back, and then their opening game against Finland got postponed because the whole Finnish team got sick, and there was obviously the loss to the USA, like that had to be bad for them. I mean, this rivalry, I don't think casual fans understand how intense this rivalry is in women's hockey for USA and Canada. I don't think
you watch the highlights? You watch
now. Well, now you add on this Olympics as a very interesting new layer to it, because now you have the US and Canadian players who hate each other, in history, are now teammates in the PWHL and in the NCAA. So they know each other better than ever. They see each other all the time. I don't think that even softens the rivalry at all. I think that sharpens it, because it's like this is personal. This is personal for you, and you want to beat someone who what their smile looks like, what their laugh sounds like. I mean, it gets really personal. And so I think that that's, an added a new layer here. But like I said, I think Poulin is, if this rivalry has a main character, it's her. She has been there, she's one of the most tenured, if not the most tenured players between the two teams. And she's inevitable. She's a machine. She is clutch in these big games. She comes up with those moments. But I will say
it's not going to be 5-0. It will not be 5-0.
And she is kind of like the Quinn Hughes cheat code. Like she'll, come up with that big moment when you need it. And that is what history tells us. But if we're looking at just this tournament, what we've seen at these Olympic Games, I mean, the US, they just look unstoppable. They look better than I have ever seen
Yeah,
them, and it
yeah.
makes me so fired up for women's hockey in this
Yeah,
country and
yeah.
just, getting girls into the game because I think it's gonna be huge.
Yeah, my daughters are into it, and it's funny. You talk about like the knowledge kind of breeds, like familiarity breeds contempt kind of deal, and
Mhm.
being on the same club teams. And like my daughters play for the same soccer club, but they're on different teams because of their age groups. Occasionally, they play on the same team, but man, when they go at each other, it's
Yeah.
different. It's different because my oldest one's a defensive, is like the starting like sweeper, and my youngest is the starting striker. So they are like in each other's hip pocket the entire game.
I will
It's
also
tough
say
to watch sometimes.
this has not been, like, officially confirmed by anyone, but, like, if you are deep into the women's hockey lore, there is the added wrinkle that, 2 of the players, so one on, US and one on Canada, they were dating, and they actually appear to have broken up during these Olympics, and
Yes, I
now they're
love it.
facing off against each other.
I love it.
So,
You better
that's
have you better have handled that respectfully. Otherwise, she's coming for your
yes.
ass.
Yeah, I'm saying. So, there
Or
was a
maybe
whole thing where, like, they didn't have a public breakup, but, like, one of them deleted all the pictures of them off of their
God, I hate that shit.
Instagram, and then, one of them said something about being single, and it was like, "Ooh,
The
okay."
worst, and this is a total aside here, and I want to see what you think about this. There are many problems with media in 2026, many problems with technology and how we communicate, and the effects of social media and having a supercomputer in our pocket at all times, and the effects on kids and our brains. There's lots of this stuff, but the worst, most obnoxious part of having to cover sports in 2026 is so and so deleted all of his mentions of his team on his Instagram account. Jeffrey Simmons doesn't have at Titans listed in his bio. What does it mean? What does
Yeah.
it mean? Maybe he's taking a break from a drug that is known as social media because we're all addicted to it. Maybe that's what's happening.
Well, 'cause
Please rate, review, and subscribe.
that's how it started, is like, "Oh, did anyone notice, like, Caroline Harvey, she deleted all the pictures of Daryl off of her Instagram," and people were like, "Oh, whatever," and then one of the other US players posted a TikTok, like, unrelated, and made mention sort of offhanded about Caroline Harvey and said, like, "Oh, she's single," or something, and everyone was like, "What?"
The
And so
phrase
yeah.
posted a TikTok is already making my brain hurt. But I'm 43. I'm old. I get it. I understand it's a thing. Whatever.
I'm old for
Whatever.
TikTok. I
Whatever.
don't
Yeah, I hear you. I
it's
hear you.
yeah.
All right, quickly, I'm going to do actual quick hockey like a NHL question for you, and then a quick Preds topic real fast, and this won't be too long. Otherwise, USA, USA, USA. At least my space died out, says Josh, or you'd be evaluating someone's top 8. Well done. I'll put on Netscape.com and we'll see what I can find. So if you know the phrase, if you have a messenger handle, like an AIM handle, then we can talk. Then we can talk because we all had one of those.
Especially if it's an embarrassing one that,
Oh
like,
yeah.
you don't really wanna admit what it was because it was really
No,
cringy.
mine was really dumb because it was like a it was a reference to like the Green Bay Packers and like my football number. It was very like a 17-year-old bro being kind of stupid. But it wasn't like
17's better. I
I
was
would have
like
been like, no, I would have been, yeah, I would have been like 16 or 17. It would have been like senior year of high school for me when I got it.
yeah, I was in, like, 7th grade, and it was just very cringy middle school
Yeah,
girl
yeah.
stuff, like
At least yeah, because you could come up with a lot of like disgusting handles for a teenage boy. It's just like blah 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 696969. Oh, like it's
yeah,
just
yeah,
real stuff. I was glad mine wasn't like that. So
that's good.
Jeffrey says side question, with the news of FanDuel officially shutting down, has there been any rumors of how Nashville will broadcast games next year? People are working on that, Jeffrey. People are working on that. The last time I reported anything was that there were 2 giant network stations in town, Scripps and Gray, which I think is CBS and NBC. and they have some they own some other channels. I think NBC and Gray owns like Telemundo, for example. So they own other broadcast networks. And the theory is that the combination of a direct to consumer live stream that carries the broadcast directly to consumers who don't want over the air broadcast are how they will hit as many consumers in the market as possible in the future. But the Predators, from what I understand, are one of the only teams that actually still generates good revenue with their contract for this particular company, which is, it's not DAZN anymore. I don't even know who owns it. It's Main Street Media. Is that right? Main Street Media.
Yeah.
And so they actually haven't missed any payments to the Predators, from what I understand. They're still making their checks and they can still pay because Nashville actually generates revenue for them. So one of the few that actually does. So just that's the latest, but we're working on that one for sure.
It's been in the news more because of all the MLB teams remaining with them have canceled their contracts because it came out that they had missed payments to the St. Louis Cardinals, and then everybody else was like, nope, we're out. And everybody kind of had to scramble because it was terrible timing because it was right when spring training was starting.
All 9 of those MLB teams like canceled their contracts. The difference with the Major League Baseball, from what I understand, is that Rob Manfred in baseball, they are intentionally trying to collect local rights into a bundle so that they can sell. They'll never get like the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the people that have their own networks, but they want to intentionally collect as many local regional broadcast rights and then bundle it and then sell it to a broadcast partner of some sort. It could be a streaming service like an Amazon, or regular broadcast partner like an NBC. And honestly, for Nashville, which is really interesting, this is a totally different subject now, but if you think about the teams that are probably most popular outside of like Yankees, let's say, or the Cubs in Nashville, it probably is all those teams. It's the Reds, it's the Cardinals, it's the Braves, it's a bunch of National League teams that are all kind of close. And I could see them doing something like, I think Nashville would be a prime market for some sort of experimental package or whatever. The NHL has no ability to do that. Like,
no,
and the NHL cannot package local rights and sell them all to a broadcast partner.
And what helped with baseball tremendously is that they already had the infrastructure in place, because prior to this year, MLB had already taken over. I think it was like a couple, like 3 or 4 local broadcast rights. So they already had the infrastructure in place. So when this whole thing with FanDuel fell through, it was easy for them to be like, just come in with us.
That's right.
So it worked out.
All right, back to hockey. There were 6 trades in the first week following the when the freeze was lifted following the Four Nations tournament, right? There's a roster freeze. You can't make any moves. The very first week, there were 6 trades, I guess, like maybe major trades that were made in the NHL. And obviously, you're starting to see rumors floating around out there. Tons of teams interested in selling pieces, tons of teams interested in buying pieces. Players are being mentioned all over the place. So clearly conversations are happening, whether they're allowed to or not. Do you expect that to happen as soon as the freeze is lifted? What is it next? Is it next week when that happens? Do you expect there to be just like floodgates opening and a bunch of moves made in the NHL?
I don't know. I mean, I think there will be moves for sure, but I don't think it's going to be like a massive floodgate, just because this whole year has been weird in the NHL. I mean, the schedule, because of the Olympics, it was very front loaded. Now, and you've already seen like the big blockbuster trades like Quinn Hughes, for example. I mean, look how early that happened in the year. That was in December, and you never see that usually. So I just think that it's kind of thrown the whole equilibrium off for the whole season. So I mean, you're going to see moves. I don't think you're going to be seeing these like seismic shifts that, people are maybe expecting.
Like a bunch of Eric Holla moves.
Yeah.
I can see that too. I'm excited about it. I think there's going to be like a mad dash of trades for the next like 4 weeks once we get back on there. Is it March 6th, I believe, is the trade deadline? I think that's the right date, which is a Friday. I know that because it's forced family vacation begins that day. Spring break for my kids. Quickly here, Corey Pronman put out a list, and this is I'm not arguing the merits of the list here. That's not what I want to do with you. I don't want to discuss who belongs at 1 and who belongs at 47 and who belongs at 112. Like I don't really give a shit. But
nor do I. So thank you for not making me have that discussion.
It was a top 137, of 22-year-old players or prospects and under. You had to be 22 on January 1st, 2026. I think it's an interesting exercise to look at the Central Division and to look at the caliber, quality, and amount of under 22-year-old prospects and players that are highly regarded within the NHL. So if you look at this list, and you could sort, Colorado, for example, has 2 players listed, none in the top 90. They have a player at 94 and 114. Minnesota has 2 players listed. Both of those teams going for a Stanley Cup right now, right? Minnesota has a player ranked at 58 and 83, none in the top 50. Dallas has 2. That's Wyatt Johnston at number 6, so an established NHL player, and number 43. But other than that, they only have 2. Winnipeg has a single player on this list with 70 at number 74. Point is Colorado, Minnesota, Dallas, what do they have in common? They're really good at hockey today. They're trying to win the Stanley Cup right now. So there's a reason why they are sort of devoid of talent in the pipeline. And then you look at the St. Louis is kind of in the middle. They have 6 players on this list, 55, 61, 64, 68, and then a couple players outside of the top 100, but nobody in the top 50. And then you get to, as you might expect, Chicago with 11 players, including number 2 and Connor Bedard, a bunch of other players. They have 5 players in the top 50 in the NHL, not in the Central Division, in the NHL. And Utah has 9 players on this list, 2 in the top 10 established players, of course, and then a bunch of other top 50s, a bunch of players in the top 100. And Nashville has 8. So does that shade your perspective of, and we'll get to sort of the actual quality, because they have a couple in the top 50. They've got a bunch in the top 100, not elite players, nobody in that top 10 or top 20. But Nashville has 8, Chicago has 11, Utah has 9. Those are 2 other teams with a clear direction. And I'm just curious if is that a good barometer for looking at the future of the division in your mind?
I don't think it's a bad barometer, but I think it's an incomplete one. I think that when you're looking at just because that includes players like current NHL players and prospects who might be, and even within prospects, it's like it might be a prospect who's knocking on the door of the NHL right now, or maybe it's a prospect who's a couple years away.
Yeah.
So I think that, maybe it's great. You have you have however many of the top 100 something on this list. That's great. But where are they in your organization? How are they contributing? Are they contributing to making the team better now? Because I still think with prospects, I'm not trying to poo-poo on prospects and say that they're not valuable, but I think that we don't have the body of work yet from them to know for sure. And, you can look at whoever, say, oh, so-and-so's having a great season in junior, he's doing great in college, but then you don't know how that's going to translate. And if you haven't seen him yet, having a 22-year-old top prospect in the NHL in the NCAA, I think is very different than having a 22-year-old who is contributing on your NHL roster right now.
Macklin Celebrini has 5 goals for Team Canada so far in the Olympics. He's number 1. I think that's fair.
Perfect example.
I think that's fair. Matthew Schaefer, the number 1 pick in this last draft, was number 4 overall, ahead of Logan Cooley and Wyatt Johnston. Nashville's top prospect, a little surprising here, in Igor Surin, who I really like watching and reading the highlights and reading the analysis of him, his game, watching him in the development camp this summer. He is a player that I think, with his physicality and strength and power, with a little bit of that skill, is I think going to be a really good piece for this organization moving forward. He was number 1 for the Preds at 34th overall. I am going to do something here just to really make everybody happy. Okay. Michael Misa, 25. Okay. Just want to point that out. James Higgins, 28. Roger McQueen, 29. Porter Martone, 31. See what I'm getting at here, right? Jake O'Brien, 37th.
Yeah.
You can see what names I'm listing here. Anton Frondel, 44. Not all of those players were available with the 5th pick in the draft, but many of them were, especially James Higgins, who is higher on this list than almost every other prospect in the draft class, other than Misa and Schaefer. Brady Martin checks in at number 45 on the list as the second best player in the Preds farm system. What'd you make of Martin's ranking and where he's located? That's the only one I'm going to ask. That's the only one I'm going to ask you about.
I don't know. Like, again, these rankings, it's a lot of, I keep going back to, my initial point, which is a lot of it is like apples and oranges. Like, why are we comparing Brady Martin against Macklin Celebrini? Like, I'm not saying that you're doing that just those two.
I'm comparing Brady Martin to James Higgins.
Yeah, no, but even then, I mean, Brady Martin plays in junior, James Higgins plays in the NCAA. It's just neither of them have played, are playing in the same level where it's even, remotely worth your time to start, like critiquing the performance and how they match up against certain opponents and things like that. I mean,
stop it with this nuanced analysis, Emma.
It's what I do.
Just
and it's
say
why people
the
hate
Predator
me.
should have taken James Higgins.
I know. I am certainly not here to say that they should have to, or that they took Martin. That was the right choice. That was the right choice to take. But I also can't say with total certainty that Higgins was the right choice and Martin wasn't. Like, I don't know. Ask me in a couple years.
I'm just trolling.
I know. You and everyone else.
I'm just having fun. Look, I think the most important thing is really to look at the team, the number of total players that experts think are among the best young talents at any level in any organization. And to have 8 of the top 137, Cameron Reed at 73, David Edstrom at 98, Jack Ivankovic, who everybody raves about. The organization loves him. Most experts, Ivan Kovic, sorry. You
always want to Europeanize his name.
Yeah, like a normal human, but I guess not. He's like, I'm from Michigan. So there's lots of, like, experts really love him. The Predators really love him, obviously. Reed Schaefer at 116, Tanner Molendijk at 127, Riker Lee at 131. So I think here's the broad takeaway is these are almost all of their first high-level picks, first-round picks, and Ivan Kovic, basically. And then the players they traded for that were first-round picks, that were premier guys. And to have 8 in this list, to be on par with Utah and Chicago in terms of quality. Now, both of them have higher-end guys, like higher up the list and more established already in the NHL. So that's a big difference. But to say that Chicago, Nashville, and Utah have the deepest collections of young prospects and talent in the division is sort of what Predators fans have been wanting. And so if this season doesn't go as it's supposed to, and it's not, and you trade a bunch of pieces at the deadline and you finish with like the 9th pick in the draft and you land another top 10 prospect and you continue to build through the draft and add even more pieces with all those picks to this farm system, you are sort of doing the thing that Predators fans want. You're just not doing it with Macklin Celebrini. Which is the problem. I get it. He's a rare talent.
That is the problem, is that everybody wants a Macklin Celebrini. The problem is there isn't a Macklin Celebrini in every draft class, but it's kind of this assumption that there is, and people, they want that high-end talent. Understandably so. I get it. What I will say about this, if we're talking about, how good of a barometer is this for measuring, future success or the health of the franchise, whatever you want to call it, I will say, like you said, seeing them sort of in the same mix with Utah and Chicago is good. I wouldn't say it's a promise or a guarantee that, we're set. But I also think I would say I would read into it more if Nashville's list read a little bit more like Dallas or Minnesota. That would concern me a lot.
Right.
But this, I'm pleased by this, but I don't think it's a guarantee of absolutely anything.
If you had 4 or 5 prospects on this list and they were all outside the top 75, I'd be concerned about the organization.
Oh, yeah.
But that's not what this is. You got a huge, deep class, and this doesn't include some other names that we really like in the farm system. So that doesn't include Teddy Stiga, for example, not on the list. Just one I named. Other than that, I think it's going to be a hell of a weekend for hockey fans. USA women going for gold against Canada on Thursday. You got the men back on the ice on Friday against Slovakia, and then a gold medal match for the men's Olympics on Sunday. Going to be a lot of fun. We'll be back next week, of course. Make sure you support good local businesses in Nashville. Sinkers Beverages, please get your bourbon, your wine, your beer, your THC, all your bar needs. Make sure you pick that up, of course, from Sinkers Beverages. Follow Emma all over the internet at Emma_Lingan. You can listen to her content, watch her content there. We do appreciate all you guys for hanging out and listening. Otherwise, that does it for us. For Emma, I'm Braden. Thanks for listening. We will talk to you next week. USA, USA.